Hey everybody, Mazer here, and I have something to show you. I went through my game room, I cleaned out my closet, and I found my old card binder, sponsored by MTV. Does anyone even remember MTV? Back in the day, I got into card games, collectible card games, as a matter of fact, starting off with Magic the Gathering and then moving on to another series that I got really into for about the 3 or 4 years that I was active in the community. And that card game was none other than the Star Wars CCG. I loved this game. Don't ask me today how I was able to play this game. It is needlessly complicated and absolutely insane to try to explain it. It's a bunch of math, bunch of numbers, a bunch of different rules. You deploy locations, you deploy characters, you arm the characters, you armor the characters. It's a big ordeal. And despite its popularity, it didn't last very long because, in my opinion, it was so complicated. But I wanted to show off my old binder of all the rare and nifty cards that I've collected over the years that are now completely worthless. I'm not joking about that. This card right here, Boba Fett, used to run between 25 or 35 bucks. It's now just pennies. I think the most I've seen it these days is $1.50. But if you couldn't tell, Boba Fett was my favorite character. I was obsessed with collecting the bounty hunters, and Boba Fett was my #1 card that I tried to find more than anything. And yeah, it's the one I had the most copies of. I have 5 Cloud City Boba Fett's, 3 Special Edition Boba Fett's, Boba Fett inside the slave one. If we come over here, we also have Boba Fett with his rifle in here somewhere. When we find him, we'll get to him. But yeah, bounty hunters were one of my favorite things to collect. Like I said, complicated game, so you also had to include their weapons. Now, you could give them any basic weapon, but if you gave them their specific weapon, it gave bonuses. And some cards were absolutely necessary to do other specific things. For example, Zuckuss's snare rifle is one of the few cards in the game that lets you actually capture a bounty. There's not that many cards in this game that let bounty hunters actually capture characters. So this card was wide sought for anyone using a bounty hunter deck. Now, as we go through the binder, you'll notice some cards are out of order. For example, I have a foil Jango Fett from the prequel card game, which we'll get into later. But, later down the line, people realize, wow, arming characters is a pain in the ass. So let's just give them their weapons from the start, like Dengar right here with his blaster carbine, and Forlom with his concussion rifle. They also went as far as going deep lore with this game, which I really appreciated. And they included a lot of Legends characters, or expanded universe, if you grew up with the books like I did. This is Jodo Kast. He is a pretender, an impersonator of Boba Fett, who took over Boba Fett's name after Fett was presumed dead by the Sarlacc. It's a fantastic comic book, if you can get your hands on it, that showcases the absolute brutality of Boba Fett when it comes to getting rid of someone using his good name. So that was a cool little Easter egg, a little extended universe lore right there. And then as you go on, we have our other bounty hunters such as Bossk, Forlom with his, IG-88 with his riot gun, and then minor bounty hunters like Greedo, Ree-Yeez, and characters you see only in the background. I'm pretty sure this guy, though, was made just for the card game. I don't remember seeing him in Jabba's palace. And we got Zuckuss, and we got a background character with the title Bounty Hunter. He's briefly seen in Mos Eisley. We got Bossk. Oh, and there's Boba Fett with his blaster rifle right down there in the corner. And I got a little collectible right there. We got IG-88, another Greedo. We got their ships, the Houndstooth, and the IG-2000. We got another extended universe character right here named Travag, who, funny enough, a little trivia, he is gutted by a woman that he tries sleeping with when she uses her razor-sharp tongue to cut his stomach open. Fantastic. I got into collecting the musicians. We got the Figure and Dan Jizz Band, the Jizz Wailers. Oh, that name. We got Ula from Jabba's Palace. We got the Max Rebo Band down here. And then we got the special edition band members, such as, what's his name? Joe Yauza, Ak Reeve, Lin Mi, Greta, and Barkwin Dan, Figure and Dan's brother. I collected all the named Ewoks I could get my hands on. I got a little foil one of Poplo. Yeah, Poplo. I don't have a Wicket, though. That always made me sad. We got our Rebels right here. We got... Now, this is the best part of the game. They wanted players to use named characters, but you could only use the name so much before it becomes redundant. So they came up with a workaround by giving them different titles, and the titles are ridiculous. For example, Princess Leia, Princess Organa, Leia Organa, Daughter of Skywalker, Boosh, and Princess Leia Organa. Then you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ben Kenobi. I'm pretty sure there's also a General Kenobi. You had Luke Skywalker, Master Luke, and I think there's a Son of Skywalker card also. You got Chewie, Lobot, Mon Mothma, Wedge, a good version of Lando. See, they also made dark side and light side versions of good guys. So you have Han Solo, which is General Solo right here, but you have the dark side version of him, TK422. And the funny thing is, you can only have one named character on the board at once. So if you have General Solo, you can't really use TK422 because it's the same damn character. And then we have our named Imperials. Oh, these guys were awesome. We got the most powerful character in the game, which is Darth Vader. Power 6, ability 6. That is the highest of all the other cards. I think only the Emperor was as strong as Vader when it came to statistics. We have another deep lore character right here from the expanded universe. Good old Mara Jade. Isn't that cool? Just got an actress to pretend to hold up a lightsaber while they photoshopped her on the second Death Star. Isn't that great? I love it. I absolutely love it. And then you have Grand Moff Tarkin, General Tag, Nita, Ozzel, Veers. Veers being one of the only Imperials who actually did his job right. You got Pietz and a bunch of the guys from backgrounds and some who are obviously photoshopped into Star Wars to add more characters. Now what's really funny though is some of the descriptions are really screwed up. Because if you look at this guy right here, who I think is an Empire Strikes Back, it says, former member of the Imperial Infantry, specializes in boarding and taking control of enemy ships. Native of Vogel 7. Hasn't had a date in years. That's so mean. It's so cruel. But sometimes the descriptions actually hide an Easter egg. And I'll show you that right now if I could get this card back in its sleeve. There we go. So if you look at this Imperial right here, Lieutenant Schickel, it says, twin brother of a famous mercenary. This is the actor who plays Boba Fett. It's the only time you see his face. He is the man in the Boba Fett armor. So it's a cute little nod to, twin of a famous mercenary. I always thought that was kind of cute, how they hide Star Wars lore and all the descriptions. We got a few more named Imperials here. No one major, just some scouts from Endor. Some foil Stormtrooper cards that I thought was really cool. So these little dots that you see right here, I'm not sure if it's too visible. That shows how many of those cards you can use. So if there's 3 dots, you can only have 3 of these cards. All named characters, though, have 1 dot. So I mentioned that, again, complicated. I mentioned how complicated it is. And that is because of these location cards. So in the game, you can only deploy if you have your lightsaber symbol. So the dark side can only deploy where there's a red lightsaber. Light side can deploy where there's a blue lightsaber. Here is a dark side Death Star. Rebels can't deploy here. No lightsaber. So they made a light side version of the Death Star with a single lightsaber to allow you to deploy there. If you don't, you have to deploy another planet like Yavin or Endor, and then warp speed over here. And only if you had enough movement points to get there. It's so dumb. And if you want to do something like blow up the Death Star, which they let you do, you have to, there's all these rules. We'll get there when we get there. So we got location cards, Leia's sporting blaster up here in the corner. We got effects, more weapons. There's your dark side Lando. So you had a light side version of Lando and a dark side. I loved collecting ships. The ships are so cool. We have Red 5 that's foiled. We have the Vengeance foiled, Vader's TIE Fighter, Chewie's AT-AT, Thunder Flare, IG-2000, the Houndstooth, several versions of the Slave One, which irritates me because I found out recently Disney removed the name Slave One from the ship. It's now called Fett Ship. I guess they don't want a bad guy to have a named ship called Slave One. God forbid if villains are villains, right? We got characters from Jabba's palace. We got some more named vehicles on this side. We got a few droids over here. So I mentioned how complicated movement and locations were, and this is one of the examples. So if you want to blow up the Death Star 2, you need to get to the reactor core using an event card. However, it says right here, deploys only if the capacitor is on table. Well, here's the capacitors. Deploys only if the coolant shaft is on table. Well, here's the coolant shaft. Deploys only if the Death Star 2 is on table. Your TIE fighters on Death Star 2 cannot Talon roll. Your non-objective cards with occupation canceled. Rules, man. We got animals right here. We have miscellaneous characters here. I got a Rancor. Never used him. Oh yeah, these are Tatooine characters like, what's his name? Gerardin and Labria and Regisk. Oh, Danik Jericho, the snot vampire. Look him up. This guy, I was hoping to find him. He's one of the strangest cards. I think one person in all the years I played this used this card properly. His power is power to the square root of 3x minus y plus 2 minus b plus pi with a minimum power of 1. X is how many dark side hand cards. Y is how many light side hand cards. A is the total amount of dark side icons in play. And B is the total number of light side icons. And pi equals da 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 da. This is a dumbass card. Only one player in my life ever used it. I think the power ended up being like 8. Like something really stupid after he busted out his calculator to figure it all out. They changed the names up. And then with just some random cards that I couldn't fit anywhere. But I did have this in this binder. Back in the day, I tried learning this. I bought one deck. I tried to learn how to play this. This is the X-Files game. You want a goddamn complicated game? Look this sucker up. God dang it. I remember playing it once. It's kind of like Clue. But it was fun, but complicated. I collected a bunch of Jawas for, no reason. But, randomly in my Star Wars binder, I also have the Final Fantasy VIII card game. I found these back when I was obsessed with the early Final Fantasy games, 7 and 8 primarily, and an import store, an anime store, sold the booster packs. So I got into the card game that's in Final Fantasy VIII. I can't remember what it's called now. But yeah, You had the cool rare cards that had like foil names right here. We have Quistis, Laguna, Cypher, the Minotaur Brothers, Bahamut. It was really cool. It's 100% identical to the rules of the in-game minigame. You got elements and all that jazz. So when the prequels came out, they decided to make a new card game based off the prequels. And it was a lot simpler, a lot easier than the Star Wars collectible card game. Character deployment was easier, attacking was easier. It's just such a more simple game. I played a little bit of this. I didn't get into it. It was almost too simple, if that makes any sense. You know it's not simple? Objective cards. So later on, near the end of this franchise, they started giving you objective cards that you deploy at the start of the game. And they're very complicated. Deploy the Carbonite Chamber console, and Security Tower with a Rebel, opponent's choice, in the reserve deck. When side up, once during your deploy phases, you may deploy from reserve deck one audience chamber, Docking Bay 94, or the East platform. Flip this card if you move a frozen captive to the audience chamber. And then it gives you a bunch of useless bonuses that are completely pointless. So to do this, you have to use this objective card with a complicated carbon freezing card. It was not worth using them. It was just a last-ditch effort to try to add something new to this franchise. Back here, I tried making my own card game, or my own cards based off Shadows of the Empire, which is one of my favorite books. I have Dash Rendar, Shizor, and Big Jizz. Ooh boy, do I love Big Jizz. He was a swoop gang leader with the most unfortunate name in all of Star Wars. And over here, you had the last-ditch effort to make something fun and unique, and that is the Jedi tests. And they're stupid as hell. Basically, what you do is you find a mentor whose ability is greater than 2. You deploy an apprentice who has an ability less than the mentor, and you have to draw a bunch of cards and beat numbers to move them through the Jedi tests to raise their power and force abilities. The problem is, for this one, you have to be over 12. Obi-Wan Kenobi, let's say Obi-Wan is our mentor, right? His ability is 6. You need somebody less than 6. Well, let's just say you want Leia right here, whose ability is 3. So, 3 plus a draw has to get over 12. Well, just glancing around, I have a 7. That's 10. Doesn't work. Nada. You fail every time. I think 7's actually the highest some of these cards can go. You have to use all these obscure bonus cards to raise your ability to pass the Jedi test. And it gets worse. 13, 14. But the biggest insult is one of the last tests simply has you turning the character upside down for one turn. You turn the character over, you flip them back again, and they pass the test. And it's test number 6. I'm sorry, 5. Ridiculous. And down here, for no reason, a Magic the Gathering card. And then I have some old Mortal Kombat cards I used to collect. No one ever played this game I was aware of, but I collected them. I loved them. What I didn't realize, though, was they were racy as hell. Look at this. So this is a foil card, close clipping. And it's an image of Kenshi ripping off Melina's outfit and smiling. God dang. Isn't that absolutely bonkers? It really is. But yeah, so there you have it. My little Star Wars card game collection. All my commons are in a box somewhere. I have no idea where they went. But yeah, I really enjoyed hanging out with people and playing this. I just can't remember exactly how to play it anymore. It's, like I said, complicated. It's a shame they're worthless these days, but that's the breaks. So until then, everybody, thank you for joining me. I am Mazer, and I'll see you next time. Bye.